Hey everyone, it's Alexi Uzas here from Exile Entertainment. In this video, I'm going to explain to you how films actually make money all the way from the box office to your pocket. Now, before I get started, I want to let you know that spots are available for our Producing Accelerator program that helps filmmakers like you consistently finance and produce your own films. So if you want to learn more about that program, stick around until the end of this video. And for the best filmmaking advice, make sure you subscribe to this channel and hit the bell to be notified when we post a video. Okay, so the first thing to discuss is the different revenue streams that are available to you as a filmmaker and for your film. So those two main streams are your domestic revenue and your international revenue. And we're gonna break that down in a bit more detail. So on the domestic side, just to be clear, what domestic means is the revenue that you generate in your home country. So if you're an Australian filmmaker, it's in Australia. If you're based in America, in the US, it's US. If you're in the UK, it's the UK. Within that, so in your domestic territory, the different revenue streams available to you are theatrical, video on demand, which now includes streaming, TV, ancillaries like airlines and hotels, and believe it or not, DVD. Yes, that is still a means of generating revenue for your film in certain territories. So when you release your film domestically, those are the different revenue streams that are available to you. And I will actually just add on to that, there's also the educational market, which I shouldn't forget about, because that can be quite a lucrative market for certain projects, particularly documentaries. So those are the streams that are available to you. Typically, how your film is exploited through those different streams is via a distributor. And the reason that you would opt for going with a distributor rather than, say, self-financing, self-distributing the film yourself, is that those distributors have all the relationships that are required to exploit your film through those different avenues. Whereas as a filmmaker, as someone self-distributing your film, you don't have those relationships. The other reason that you'd opt to go with a distributor to exploit the film through those avenues is because they're going to have more resources, through marketing and through even just the teams that they have behind them to push the film out. So that's the domestic side. And then on the international side, you have international sales. So the way that the film can generate revenue through international sales is by selling to different territories outside of your domestic market. So if you're in the US and you have a film that was shot and financed in the US and it's been picked up by a domestic distributor, you then have the ability to sell all the international rights to the film. What typically happens is that you would engage a sales agent who will then sell the film or represent the film on your behalf, and it's their job to go out to the marketplace and then sell the film to distributors in different territories around the world. So they'll be trying to sell it to a UK distributor, a German distributor, a Korean distributor, etc., etc. And the way that they'll be making those sales is by getting what's called either a minimum guarantee or an advance. So you may have heard that terminology before. And what that money represents is it's an advance on future royalties. So that distributor is paying a certain figure and they're going to recoup that figure as money starts to come in from the distribution of the film. And then they're going to pay out through the sales agent and to you as a filmmaker. And on the international side, while you're generating revenue from all those advances, once the film's actually released, you can also achieve more revenue. So if that distributor recoups their advance, recoups their marketing expenses, then what's left over can be distributed, like I said, through the sales agent to you as the filmmaker. So they're the different streams that are available to a film and that can be exploited for you to make money from your film and as a filmmaker. Okay, so you might be thinking, well, that all sounds well and good, but there's a lot of different people that you've just mentioned, Alexi, who are going to have to be involved in the exploitation of the film. And so surely some of those people are going to want to get paid along the way. And you're absolutely right. Every time your film is released, distributed, or pushed through one of those different distribution channels, there's going to be someone that is getting paid along the way. So when you're releasing the film through a distributor domestically, the typical splits that you're going to see, and what I mean by splits is the commission that distributor is going to keep is going to look something like 50% for the box office, 50% for VOD, usually 60-40 for TV in your favor. And then when it comes to ancillaries, 50-50, educational 50-50, where it goes in the favor of the distributor is DVD. Now, obviously it's not as relevant anymore, but we used to be seeing splits of as high as 80% or as low as around 70% in the distributor's favor. In the distributor's favor for DVD. That's how those splits are going to work. And on the sales agent side, on the international sales, a sales agent is going to take anywhere between 15 to 20% as a commission of all sales that they achieve for the sale of your film. So while there are all these distribution avenues available to you, someone is going to be getting clips along the way, and that's the type of commission that you can expect to see these days in both domestic distribution deals and international deals. Okay, so now I'm going to give you an example of what that might actually look like in practice. So let's say you're distributing your film domestically through a distributor, and when the film is released, the film achieves a box office of $1 million. And I'm going to use that figure just because it's a nice round figure. The first thing that's going to happen is that cinemas are going to take a clip of all the ticket sales. Now, the percentage or the clip that they take is different country by country. In the US, it's around 50%. In Australia, it can be as high as 70%. Usually starting at around 60%. From that $1 million, and let's just use the US model, the cinemas are going to take 50% of that revenue, leaving 50% for the distributor. So that's $500,000. Now in this example, let's say that the distributor has put up $50,000 as an advance to license the film from you. And let's just say it's put up $150,000 to market the film. So it's now spent $200,000 on acquiring the rights and marketing the film. That's going to be $200,000 that it will now recoup from the $500,000 that's left from the release in cinemas. So if we take the 500 and we subtract the 200, that leaves $300,000. Out of that $300,000, 50% of that is going to go to the production company, you as a filmmaker, and 50% will be kept by the distribution company. So that would leave the production company with $150,000 or around 15% of the box office. I'm running you through this example just so you can see how this could work in practice, but there are some variables in here that could significantly change how much the production company's left with. And those main two variables are how much the distributor has paid, what the advance was, and how much it's spent on marketing. So until we know those two figures, and we don't know exactly how much will be recouped from the box office, but using anywhere from 10 to say 20% of the box office as a general rule of thumb can be a good way to think about how much a production company might see from a total box office figure. On the sales agent side, it's a lot simpler. because we're just having the sales agent that's taking their commission or their clip on the way in. So if they're taking, let's say 20% as a commission, they've sold $1 million, they've done $1 million worth of sales. Let's say they paid $100,000 as an advance, they've spent $50,000, so they need to recoup $150,000. That leaves $850,000, and then they're going to keep 20%, and 80% of that is going to go back to the production company. It wouldn't be a discussion around how your film can make money if we didn't speak about streaming. So, how exactly do films make money from selling to streaming platforms like Netflix, Amazon, Apple, or local streaming platforms? So I'm thinking something like Shudder in America or Stan in Australia. Of course, there are different streaming platforms in lots of different territories. So the first thing to recognize is that there are different tiers to streaming, to how streamers acquire their content. So the first is acquiring content on a worldwide basis. So that's when a streamer will come in and acquire all the territories to the film and basically just completely take it off the market. And this is most common when a streaming platform picks up or even commissions a project and they are slapping their Netflix original or Apple Presents or some sort of thing like that at the start of the film. That typically signifies that the streaming platform has picked it up as a worldwide deal. They've taken all the rights off the table, so you can't then distribute the film through any of those other rights that I spoke about earlier. It's just going to sit on that streaming platform. Now, the reason that is it's something that could be good for the film is that that's going to command the highest price from a streaming platform. Because if they have exclusivity over your title, then the only place where people can watch it is on their streaming platform, which drives subscribers for them, which is how their business model works. So that's the first tier. The second tier down from that is going to be when they acquire it only in your specific territory on an exclusive basis. So let's say for this example, you're a filmmaker based in Australia and the film has sold to different territories around the world, different distributors. But in Australia, you've managed to do a deal with a streaming platform and they're acquiring the rights to it. So they're taking all the rights off the table. Again, you then can't release it through any other of those channels I spoke about earlier domestically. So they're taking it off the table. It's going to sit on that streaming platform exclusively. At that point, you're then going to get a better deal than you would get if you've already released it through other distribution avenues in their territory. But it's not going to be that big deal that you might get if one of those streamers are taking it for worldwide. So that would be the second way. It's exclusive for your territory. And then the last way would be non-exclusive for your territory. So in that scenario, you may release the film in cinemas. It could even be on other video on demand platforms, but likely not streaming video on demand, so SVOD. And the streamer's just going to acquire the rights, similar to how a TV network would have acquired rights to a film, right? They're going to license it exclusively for their right. So either it could have been for TV networks, or for a streamer it would be SVOD, but you're still allowed to distribute it through those other channels. And they're going to have it for a shorter period of time, maybe a 2-year license or a 3-year license. So those are the different ways. And then what a streamer is going to actually pay you it varies greatly, territory by territory. And it also depends on how they're acquiring it. So is it worldwide? Is it exclusive for your territory? Or is it non-exclusive for your territory? The best scenario for a filmmaker is that the film is of such a high quality that there are multiple interested parties, streaming platforms, other distributors that are all interested in the project. And then that can create a bidding war around the acquisition of the project, and that is going to drive up the price of the film. And that's where you get some really big, deals that happen. And no doubt you're familiar with kind of reading the trades during Sundance or just after Sundance, and you're seeing those indie films, made for $1 million or under $3 million and commanding huge sales, in the $20 to $30 million range. That type of thing can only happen when there's that really intense increased demand for a project. If that's not there for a project, then it becomes much more difficult to drive to really drive a hard bargaining position for your project, and it is harder to command those big prices or those big sales. So that's how streaming works. That's how you generate money from streaming, and it's of course how you can then make money from selling your film to a streamer. Okay, so now that we've been through all the different ways that you can exploit your film and that your film can make money, you're likely thinking, well, what's the best way for your film to make money? So really the best way, and I touched on this just in that previous section, is really to make the absolute best film possible so that you can create a bidding war, ideally at a major film festival. And even better at a major film festival that has a market attached to it. So the main markets really take place at Sundance, Berlin, Cannes, and Toronto. So that's where you're going to see a lot of activity in the buying space. And if your film is premiering in the festival at the same time that the market is happening, if your film can get a lot of heat, a lot of positive publicity, a lot of interest, and then hopefully a lot of bids at that festival, that's going to give you the best opportunity, because it's going to be this really condensed period, a week or 2 weeks when that festival's happening, where there's excitement and where you can hopefully really drive a really good sale for your project. So that's the best way to do it. If you're unable to do that, now it doesn't mean that your film can't make money. What you want to do then is really, and if you've explored also trying to sell the film to a streamer on a worldwide basis, and if you have a sales agent, they're the ones that are going to be trying to do that. But if you haven't managed to do that, then what you really want to do is exploit the film through as many of the distribution channels that are available to you. So that means through domestic distribution, attaching a distributor and going through all those channels. Internationally, ideally attaching a sales agent and going through all those channels. Now, if you can't attach a sales agent to your project, what you want to do there is either try and sell the film to lots of different domestic distributors, but I can tell you from experience that that's really difficult to do, extremely time consuming, and if you don't have the relationships, it's hard for you to really get any traction doing that, or to simply put the film up online on different VOD channels in different territories. And to do that, you can actually go through aggregation companies who will do that for you. They will put the film up in as many territories as possible on as many platforms. Now, I have to warn you that if you're going to do that, the last kind of exploitation of the film through aggregators, then the revenue that you're likely going to see is going to be small. So you can't be expecting big gains to be made. And that's why I always speak about the preference of working with distributors in domestic territories, because they have the ability to push the film out through all the distribution channels that are available to them. So that's really what you want to do. You want to team up with a distributor, you want to team up with a sales agent, and just get the film going out through as many of those channels as possible. One thing to really keep in mind is the importance of the long tail. And what the long tail means, or the theory of the long tail, is that when you release a product like a film to the market, what typically happens is you get a really big spike at the start, and then the long tail kind of tapers off, and it can still generate revenue for you in that long tail, but that spike at the start is where the film can really kind of peak. And of course, the higher that you go in the peak, the more kind of revenue that you're going to generate from that long tail over time. So it is really important when you're releasing a film for the release to go really well. It's important to have that really big spike at the start, because that's going to encourage the rest of the long tail. And so again, going back to why it is good to work with distributors is that hopefully you're getting they're putting up a decent chunk of advertising spend or marketing spend for the project, and that's going to help get people, into the cinemas, or it's going to get eyeballs onto the project online. And when the film's released, there's going to be a lot of hopefully hype around it, a lot of eyeballs on it, and that's going to help that long tail. Now, another great way to kind of affect that long tail is to have an audience yourself. So if you have a built-in audience that you have built up over time, then a great way to spike, to get that first spike is by engaging your audience, right? By having a really well thought out marketing plan leading up to the release about how you're going to get as many people either in cinemas or downloading the film or watching the film on its first day of release. So that's the last thing that I want to leave you with on this video. Okay, so that's it for this video. If you liked the video, hit the like button and leave your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well if you want to be kept up to date with all the best filmmaking advice. Now, I do want to circle back as well and tell you a bit more about our Producing Accelerator program. So what that is it's a combination between online learning, expert mentorship, a private community of filmmakers who are going through the journey of raising finance and producing their own films. So if you're interested in speaking with me or a member of my team about the program and about seeing if your project is the right fit for the accelerator, you're going to want to head to the link in the description below. You'll be taken to a page where you can check out a video. It's going to take you through our financing and producing system in a bit more detail. And then if you like what you see, you can set up a time to speak with me or a member of my team. Like I said, we'll be going through your project in more detail, working out where you're at with it right now, where you're trying to get to, and of course, if we can help. And check out these videos next on how to up your filmmaking game.